Hey everyone, and welcome to Bible 365 with Kathy Carter, which is me. Bible 365 means we're reading through the Bible chronologically, 365 days from start to finish. We're going to finish the whole Bible in 1 year. And I am just talking about what I've read, how I feel about what I read, what I see when I read it, what stands out to me, what sticks in my brain, and then how God is sort of using that in my life over the days and weeks and months and year that I'll be reading this. So, as you can see today, I have a little bit of a change of venue. Outside. We have a reprieve in the weather, and this is my favorite place to be. So, I am taking advantage of it for as long as I can, which, if I'm lucky, it's going to be 2 days. But anyway, so we are on day 44 today. And so we're looking at chapters 37 through 39, 31 of Exodus, and this is another really small set of, it's a short reading. It's in one way I want to say redundant, but I don't mean it in a negative way. It's a repetitive reading, so it's a lot of what we've read already, but there are definitely some things that I feel like are said in here that that are interesting, that maybe are a little bit different and could be important. And so I wanted to highlight some of those things. But as always, just kind of bringing us back to where we are today. If you have never been with me before, I'm going through the 1 year chronological Bible reading plan, which is online. It's called the 1 year chronological Bible online. And you can look that up and you can download the plan, or you can read it actually in one of their Bibles, which they have the New Living Testament, the NLT version, the NIV version, and the NKJV, so the New King James. So they have those three versions available if you want to read from any of those directly. It's definitely easier. I don't get any proceeds or profits from this place. They do it all on their own. I really just enjoy this reading plan. I think it helps the Bible make so much more sense. So that's where I am. And we are currently in the book of Exodus, which means we finished the book of Genesis, we finished the book of Job, and we are now kind of we're literally a day, I think, from the end of the book of the book of Exodus. And currently Moses has been given all of the information from God in order to make the tabernacle, so the place where God is going to dwell and speak to his people. And so we've been given all that information of how he got it from God on the mountain, and now he has come down. Moses has come down from the mountain to his people, and he is going to speak all of these things, and he's sort of leading it, right? So he's the general, the head honcho, the man in charge, and he's getting them to do all of the things that God told him that he wanted the Israelite people to do, the people that were saved by God out of Egypt from slavery for hundreds of years, right? These are currently God's people, his chosen people that he saved so that they will do what he asks them to do, and so that others will know who the God of the universe is. So there's actually a reason and a purpose for these people, for this people group. So anyway, as I always like to say twice, we're day 44, Exodus 37 through 39, 31. And yesterday, he assembled all the people and he just started explaining to them some of the things that were done. So today we're just kind of moving on, and he's made a few of the things. And what I wanted to note today is in the very first sentence, in the very first verse in 37, he says, Bezalel made the ark. And I have acacia wood. And I know there's a few different versions of this, but I have acacia wood, and that doesn't matter. But it's made out of wood, and it's a certain length, a certain height, and all these other things. He overlaid it with gold. But what I wanted to notice is that Bezalel made it. So if you remember a couple of chapters back, God specifically chose this guy because God gave this guy certain gifts in order to be able to do this work. So God gave him the gifts. God called this one to do the work. And it looks like Bezalel's the only one that does the work on the ark. And I say that because if I move on to verse 10, it says they made the table. So the table is the next thing. And they made the table out of acacia wood. And then in the lampstand on verse 17, it says they made the lampstand of pure gold. And then incense, they made the altar of incense. But in this first section, He speaks only of Bezalel. And as a matter of fact, in verse 2, it says he overlaid it with pure gold. And then in verse 4, it says, then he made poles. So to me, it looks like this because of his skill and because he's the one that's been called out to do this, he's the one that made the ark. So again, going back a few chapters, really just recognizing the importance of certain things. So this ark, this is the thing. If you remember, this is the thing that has the cherubims on it, and this is the thing that God is going to come down to and speak to Aaron and Moses in. This is how he's going to come down among his people. And not everyone gets the freedom to go into this place. This is a very particular place. We'll go a little bit further, but reading how Aaron and his sons will be the priests. And so they're going to be the ones that go in there. So not everyone is able to go in there. And so I think not everyone is able to build it either. So he gives this job to a specific person for a specific reason. And so we continue to separate the importance of God, of who God is, of the power that he has, and of the, boy, I'm trying to think of a word, but of the the greatness of being able to be in his presence. So we have, any of us that have been born in this generation that are going to be listening to this, I doubt this is going to last for multiple generations, maybe, but I don't know. But anyone who's been born in this generation or even later, we as Christians, as we know it, we have God as the Holy Spirit inside of us. We are not separated from him. And so these people they actually had a separation, and even a very physical one, where there was a curtain put up where they actually couldn't get in, but God came down among them, but they couldn't go in and actually speak directly to him, even to the point where a few chapters back it said, we don't, well, he's too scary. He's like raining lightning and thunder down on the mountain, and it looks like a consuming fire up there. And so, you know what? You stick with talking to him. We'll just listen to hear what you have to say. And so he's uniquely designed this to be precious and to be special and to be unique. And so we can just see that distinction between them, and where those other things just aren't, not that they aren't, because these people that were appointed were skillful, excuse me, they were special people, they were given gifts by God, but the ark is unique. And so I liked how he separated the people that worked on it. I thought that was really interesting. So and then one of the things that I noticed too is, even in verse 10 was one of the notings, but it's all over here really, is the amount of gold that they're using. So the table, they overlaid it with pure gold, made a gold molding around it, right? So gold molding around the rim, gold rings, gold, right? So this is, if you remember yesterday when I was talking, or one of the things that I had noted was these people didn't have more stuff. They had the stuff that was given to them, and they gave away so much stuff, and this stuff that was used was precious. It was extremely valuable, right? So it was extremely valuable to these people, not to mention the people on the outside, like outside of them, but it was extremely valuable to these people. And this was used to house God. And so how do I see God's house, right? So how do I look at it? And then what's he trying to show me here in the way that he prepares his house, right? Do I think God wants all the money? I don't. That's ridiculous. God doesn't need money. He creates money. He doesn't use money. That would be an absurdity. Not to use harsh language, but I feel like that God doesn't need your money. God doesn't need my money. God gives me my money. Why would he need my money? But in this, he is using the most precious thing to show them how precious he is. So his importance. So using something that we love and that we value and that we have high value on, and then that's to be used to show the value of God, right? So that makes him valuable. And then the altar of incense is mostly wood. So again, these showing the importance of certain things, right? The ark is mostly gold. And then we're going to start to kind of whittle down, where there are certain things that are wood overlaid with gold, and there are certain things that are overlaid with silver, and then there are certain things that are overlaid with bronze. And so each piece, kind of as we get farther and farther away from God, the actual, where God's actual dwelling is, the farther we get away, sort of the less important and precious and valuable the metals are that are being used. So I want to keep moving on. Is one of the things that I noted in this one is, because the next chapter is Exodus 38, and again, it's sort of just continuing. They've made this, they've made that, they make the wash basin, they build the courtyard, and so they do all these things. And in verse 21, because there's two things I want to point out here, and the first one is in verse 21. It says, so 38:21. It says, these are the amount of materials used for the tabernacle of the covenant law, which were recorded at Moses' command by the Levites under the direction of Ithamar, son of Aaron the priest. Then they kind of go on and on to the other people. So the total amount of the gold. So if you remember, and I didn't realize that this was the case, which is why I'm pointing it out. If you remember, God was talking about wave offerings and burnt offerings, and right. So he was discussing these offerings, and I'm not 100% sure what a wave offering is. However, the gold was the wave offering. And so this gold that was given actually was the wave offering, which feels a little more positive than some of the other things. So the gold was the wave offering, and I believe the bronze was also the wave offering. But if we go in verse 25, the silver was obtained from those in the community. So the silver was the thing that they paid for themselves. So every single person paid for themselves, and they paid, it says, a half of a shekel, and they wound up getting 100 talents and 1,775 shekels, one half a shekel per person. And so then it was 600,550 men. So it's every man that gave a half of a shekel, and so they paid for themselves, which paid for the silver, which they used to build the tabernacle. So each person, their value then is now inside this tabernacle. So now they are a person of value inside this tabernacle. And then the other thing that I wanted to note was, it feels like almost after every sort of little section in which they make stuff, I'll just go right here to verse 39:1. It says, they also made sacred garments, for Aaron, as the Lord commanded Moses. And if then we go to verse 7, they fastened them on the shoulder pieces of the ephod as the Lord commanded Moses. So they say this in verse all the way down in 21. At the very end of that verse, it says, as the Lord commanded Moses. A couple of chapters back, it looks like the Lord gave these people to Moses. And I don't want to say they're not God's people. They are God's people. But Moses is in charge of these people. So he is the leader. He is the one they look towards for all things in this time, right? He is the person. So God, he is responsible for them. They are responsible to listen to him, because if you remember, God did this whole thing on the mountain so that they all knew it was God, and they all knew that Moses was the one to listen to him, right? And to bring all of his laws and rules down, but laws, all of his information, everything that he wanted passed down to the Israelite people. Moses did that. So Moses is now in charge of these people, and in a way, he's responsible for these people. So he has sort of taken on the headship of the Israelite people. So when we look to leadership, let's just say, so one of the things that I do is I run and work in Bible studies. So I don't always run them. Sometimes I run them. Sometimes I'm just a part of them. And but I'm a leader. And so it in the world, it seems like it's a cool thing, right? So you're in charge. Good. You get to be in charge. You get to tell them what to do, which I'm a spin instructor too. And I'm in charge of that room. And I love being able to boss people around. And I love to be able to kind of yell at people and make them work harder. But in this case, and even in that case, I have some responsibility for them as well. So in my spin room, I have responsibility for, am I being safe and effective um, to keep them healthy, right, from not getting injured, and then to have interesting enough, working them hard enough to keep them coming back. So, am I doing those things in this? So, when it comes to Moses, or when it comes to me leading my Bible studies or any other leaders, am I honoring the Lord in everything that I bring? Like when I do these things that I'm doing here, am I in prayer to God about what I say, how I act, how I present myself? Because it's a great responsibility. So for someone, for anyone in here who's listening to me, you may take my word and not read. And I'm going to laugh because at myself, because one of my guys says, am I speaking directly to you? Yes, I'm speaking directly to you. I want you reading because God is speaking to you. I'm a messenger, right? Or maybe like, I guess we could use the term preacher. I'm preaching it because I'm excited about it, but I'm not God. But I have some responsibility for what I say. And it's a great responsibility. And God actually holds us to that responsibility. So God, I think, is holding Moses to this high position of responsibility. He's not in charge where everyone just keeps giving him the money. He's in charge where he's responsible for how do the Israelites follow God? How do they respond to all that God is saying and doing, right? That's a reflection, I'm going to say, on the way that Moses teaches, preaches, and speaks to them. Um, and so it's really important that Moses is completely honoring everything that God says. And that's why I find it amazing that he comes down and he's verbatim, he's speaking all these things to the people. And then we're going to find too that he makes sure that everything is going the way it's supposed to be going. So on that note today, I'm going to end this. Because that's actually the end. It's just a lot of, like I said, it's just a lot of repeating, which again, this is important. It's repeating what God has already told Moses on the mountain. And Moses is telling the people, and now they are building it and they are creating this home for God. So we're going to pick it up tomorrow, and tomorrow is going to be the end of Exodus, and we're going to work our way into another book. And I want you guys to like this. So hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share it with as many people as possible, as well as sharing your reading. So sharing the video is awesome. I love that other people are watching this, but share your reading. Read with someone, read along, comment, and keep reading. And I will see you next time.